Welcome everybody, and thanks for joining us today. My name is Dominic Taroli, and I am responsible for 3D markets at Esri. With me today is Matthias Bühler. He's the head of 3D technology at Garsdale Design, and probably one of the most advanced City Engine users in the world. Matthias, glad to have you on board for this webinar. So before we start, let me say thank you. First of all, thank you for your time and joining us for this webinar. Then also thanks to Matthias Bühler for joining us as a speaker. And then last but certainly not least, thanks to Nancy and her wonderful team at the Visual Effects Society to make this webinar happen. Now, since most of the people in the entertainment industry, or more specific in the visual effects industry, are storytellers, I think it's quite obvious that every story is somehow bound to a location, whether that's a real or a fantasy place. Just think about some famous examples like The Simpsons and Springfield, Cars 2 in Tokyo or London, San Francisco in Big Hero 6, King Kong in New York, or Metropolis for the Superman movies. And since nowadays over 50% of the people live in cities, cities are becoming more and more a main character in feature films, commercials, gaming, or TV productions. But the truth is, it's not that easy to model a city in 3D. First of all, cities have a lot of buildings. Take, for example, Redlands, where the headquarters from the company I work for, Esri, is located. It's a beautiful small town, which is an hour eastwards from Los Angeles, and the population is around 70,000 people. But Redlands has already over 26,000 buildings. Another example is Orlando, with a population of around 250,000. And we are already talking about over 100,000 buildings. Or Chicago, with a population of 2.7 million people, comprise over 1 million buildings. And the US in total has well over 100 million buildings. So let's assume we want to model all those buildings, and let's also assume that you are really a fast building modeler. So if we take an average of 50 minutes per building, you would already invest for a small town like Redlands over 6,500 hours. For Orlando, it would be 14 man-years of work, or 27,500 hours. And if you dare to model a city like Chicago, it's a whopping 300,000 hours, or 150 man-years. But it doesn't stop here. A city does not only contain buildings. A city includes also facades, street furniture, lights, water bodies, etc. And a lot of details like roofs, different windows, and so on. So I guess you agree with me that modeling cities by hand is a very painful and tedious task. So what is the solution then? If we have a look at this diagram, we have on the y-axis the total costs, and on the x-axis the amount or quality of content and design. Now, this simply means that for handcrafted or manually built content, the more you are creating, the more it costs. And on the other side, you can break this linear correlation with procedural modeling technology, the blue part. So yes, it will take in the beginning a little bit longer to decode the city or set up a library, but the more buildings you need, the bigger is the return on investment, which simply means it doesn't matter if you need 10,000 or 100,000 buildings, because procedural modeling technology will do the tedious work. And that is exactly what we will talk about in today's webinar. So what do we want to achieve in the next 30 to 40 minutes? First, we want to bring everybody on the same page with City Engine. Then we would like to discuss how you can ramp up massive cities. After that, we are exploring City Engine use cases, as well as a City Engine pipeline integration. Thirdly, we would like to show you something that we think you will be very excited about. Cities in the cloud. And then at the end, we should have some time for feedback and Q&A. Hope that works for you. And before we start, we just have 3 housekeeping items to cover. First of all, we set up a box folder. It's like Dropbox with all the content from today's webinar. And you can access this box folder at bit.ly/VES-webinar_1508. This URL is case sensitive, so please write it quickly down or make a picture or a screenshot right now. Okay? And we will repeat that URL several times over the webinar. So if you didn't write it down right now, you will have a chance afterwards. Second, we will have a big booth at SIGGRAPH next week in LA. So if you want to meet City Engine Mastermind Pascal Müller and myself there for a personal meeting, please use the following link: bit.ly/SIGGRAPH_2015. And you will find this link also in the box folder that I mentioned before. And there are some last slots available, so please hurry up if you want to meet us there. And then last but not least, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the question window. Type in your question and then click send. Hope that will work for you, and I will hand now over the control to Matthias Bühler. So Matthias, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dominic. Can you hear me?
Perfectly, yes.
Let me check if I am sharing the correct screen. Can you hand me over the here, sorry, screen 1. Yeah, I think now I'm set up correctly. Okay, yeah, so thank you, Dominic, for the introduction, and yeah, let's get started with this webinar. So the title is, as you have heard before, or may have heard before, City Engine, Hollywood's VFX tool for massive cities. So let's get started right now. So let's have a quick look at the agenda. First, introduction and who I am, the presenter. That's what we are doing right now. Then second topic, what is City Engine? Third topic, our work here at Garsdale Design, basically the company that I am working at. Point number 4, City Engine in visual effects, just an example of that work. Then in point number 5, I would like to introduce you to one of the City Engine training lectures I have created for the use specifically in the visual effects industry. Point number 6, our services here at Garsdale Design and the outro. And then I will basically give the line back to Dominic, and we'll have the Q&A at the very end. So, in this picture here, you see a picturesque landscape. The little barn building here, which you see, this is the office where we are currently working here at Garsdale Design. It's in the National Dales National Park in the United Kingdom, so in England, about 2 hours north by car of Manchester. We are a company which is specialized in architecture, planning, and heritage. So it's basically a planning consultancy and a planning company. New since some time, there is a new field that has grown within this company, which is basically going or operating in the field of 3D geodesign and visualization. heavily focusing on the use of City Engine. Additionally, we are specialists in Middle Eastern city planning. Presenter, so myself. My name is Matt, or Matthias Buehler. I am the head of 3D technologies here at Garstill Design. My background is in architecture, and I am, as mentioned before, I'm a 3D visualization specialist. So the fields that I have worked in before are landscape architecture, architectural visualization, and I've been part of the, or in my last job, in my last job before I joined this company here, I was in the City Engine development team for almost 5 years, and I collaborated together with Dominic and Pascal, the inventor, which you can meet at SIGGRAPH. So what did I do there? I was basically the City Engine tech support lead, doing about 90% of all of the City Engine tech support, which came in from all countries, from all different customers. I supported a lot of architects, people in the entertainment industry, and so on. I also did a lot of product engineering work, like testing and helping with specifications for new tools, and so on and so on. And I created quite a lot of content for City Engine, like, for example, the desert city example or the medieval city, which you can download for free when you are, for example, evaluating City Engine. So, just a very quick introduction for the people that have never heard of City Engine or have never used it before. So what is City Engine? City Engine is a procedural modeling application. It's a standalone tool that allows you to create city models as you see them here, for example, in this screenshot. So the main aspect of how this actually works, this procedural modeling, is that we take one input geometry, the so-called shape, and the rule. This is the so-called, or this is the procedure, the so-called rule, which can be assisted by attributes and assets, for example, like 3D window geometries or tree geometries, and so on and so on, and generate from these two ingredients the 3D model. So whenever I go in and change the input geometry, the shape, or the rule, or the attribution, instantaneously the 3D model is adapted. So this is the main methodology or the underlying nature of how City Engine actually works. So by using lots and lots of different shapes and, for example, one or multiple rule files, we can go from this almost naked-looking soup of polygons to a three-dimensional city with complete random variations, for example, of high-rise buildings, of trees, and so on and so on. So once we have a rule set defined, like, for example, in this building that is mimicking a typical Parisian city data set, for example, we can go in and play with the attribution. So in this example here, we see that we are playing with the building heights or the number of floors. So we can change that, and as soon as we change the attribute value, the building will be accordingly remodeled within a fraction of a second. We can do the same thing for other attributes, obviously, and this is, for example, the level of detail attribute. So going and defining the different points where we should stop the model generation phase, we can use this and define, for example, multiple levels of detail. So, for example, the left one here has only very few polygons, while the right one has a ton more and obviously also has a ton more geometry. We can also do the same thing, for example, with a little bit more exotic attributes, like, for example, the building age. So in this example here, the left building has a hypothetical original building date of around 1600 or the year 1600. The building in the middle was originally erected in the year around 1800, and the building on the right was originally built in the year 2000. So you can go pretty wild with all of the ideas of how you want to drive building geometries or the constructions of the building and link them to all sorts of logics. Now, once you are done with the modeling of your city engine scene or of the three-dimensional city, then you can simply go and export all of the generated model to one of the industry standard file formats, like, for example, Collada or FBX or RenderMan. Another a little bit more special file format is the City Engine web scene, which is basically a container for geometries that you can also share online or share with clients via sending a URL and opening up the 3D scene directly in a web viewer. But as Dominic mentioned, he will mention this after, or again, quickly after my presentation. So our work here at Garstel Design, how do we use City Engine in our daily planning work, for example? So this is one of these mentioned web scenes where we are aggregating, for example, different GIS data sets. GIS means Geographic Information Systems data. So that's basically real-world city data. And we can apply different sorts of analyses, like line-of-sight analyses, different, for example, calculate how important is a specific street. We can visualize flooding data. We can import all sorts of other data too, obviously. So, for example, water bodies, and so on and so on. Another visualization here of a rule which was created specifically to distribute building typologies, which are representing some of the planning work we are doing in the Middle East. Another quite small data set, but this is always also visualizing two different states of real-world city data and visualizing them. Another very similar data set, which is a little bit larger and is also visualized just using some of the rendering technologies that we also use in-house. This is another, maybe a little bit more exotic example of work that we are doing, but this is, for example, this could also be one of the services we offer, basically any type of landscape. Okay, now I'm very quickly going to show you a video of a private hobby project that I have been creating. It's called the Favela, and since this is a video, it will not be directly very fluid by playing it in or via this webinar. So please just go ahead, go quickly on your machine, go to YouTube and search for a video called City Engine and Favela. So that looks like this. If you go to the browser, just go to YouTube and search for these two keywords, City Engine and Favela. And at the very top, you will see the very first entry. And just go ahead and play this video. So I'm going to do this online now in the presentation. So this is a hobby project that I have done with a friend of mine called Cyril. So the first picture which you see in the series of pictures is an exterior visualization of a favela. Then what we have done is we have digitally scaled down this model and created a physical or created a visualization of this physical representation of the miniature model of this favela. Now the rest of the hobby room is basically a series also of three-dimensional models, and the whole project has been rendered using Maxwell Render. But the main attraction obviously is this completely procedural model of this imaginary physical miniature model of the favela. Now you see there's a ton of variation, so none of these buildings actually are the same. All of the buildings are completely unique and completely generated or constructed using City Engine. So how did I go in and actually create the City Engine model? Here we see one of the early volumetric studies which I have done by just choosing what is a good ratio between, for example, the green space between the buildings and the actual buildings themselves. These are the very crude final building forms that are actually used to construct the fully detailed buildings. You see there are also some walls missing, as in reality in a favela, where some buildings have not yet been finally constructed or closed up completely, basically, or are just still under construction. In this screenshot here, we see that I went in and actually created a library of facades that are applied to all of the different buildings. And all of these facade rules actually adapt to the different building geometries. The red and green areas are secondary areas which I have defined on each of the facades to be able to accept, for example, incoming electricity or telephone lines in the green areas, and in the red areas just simply distribute elements like plastic pipes or AC units and so on and so on. Here, two test renderings quite at an early stage, showing also all the procedural constructions of the rooftops and all of the assets which we have modeled together in, for example, or in Maya and in Cinema 4D. And again, all of those different assets were distributed on the rooftops and balconies using procedural rules. Here we see some of the a little bit more specific work that I've been doing using some Python scripting, calculating different catenary curves for potential connection points, and hanging cables or even clotheslines as we see them here. Another maybe interesting application of or it was maybe a little bit more like an experiment of how far can I go with creating CGA rules or these procedural rule sets in City Engine. And in this case, I actually went in and created procedural vegetation using these rules. Another application here, using the exact same rule as in the picture just before, to create this procedural palm tree. A very quick run-off of the pipeline going from City Engine to Maya, where I rendered the images using Maxwell Render. So there are just two paths going with the just the standard geometries which cannot be instanced via an OBJ file series that I processed to get one OBJ file for each of the approximately 700 materials that are generated in a full scene, creating a Maxwell render material for each of these OBJ files, basically, and then bringing all into Maya to render. The second route here is basically grabbing all of the vegetation instances or the interesting positions for all of the vegetation and then going to Maya and filling in particle system to distribute all of the vegetations in the Maya scene, instead of bringing all the geometries over via hard geometry. Okay, next topic. This is a City Engine training lecture which I have created for the Gnomon workshop. So let's quickly go again to the browser. Also have a look at the trailer of this video in YouTube. Search for City Engine and Gnomon, and the first entry, City Engine and VFX, shot-based approach to high-quality procedural film sets. This is the video I will just play now to give you a very short introduction about what the product actually is. So it's the teaser trailer for the product. So let's roll the movie. So I assume you will not really see this very fluidly. So I'm just going to quickly explain what the video is showing. So at the very beginning, you see me talking about what the training is about, and then we are going in and show some of the examples that are covered in the video. Now, the whole video has a runtime of pretty exactly 7 hours. So it's a very, very detailed introduction into how City Engine actually works. So we are going in and we discuss the so-called dynamic city layouts, where you can learn how to create interactive layouts for cities. Then we continue and discuss the whole pipeline, how you go from City Engine with this proposed pipeline here that I will come back to in a minute, and go from City Engine to Maya to actually render the whole scene in Maxwell Render again. We'll also have a quick look again at the favela data set with how, for example, some dirt and stones and the vegetation is distributed. So if you're interested, have a look at the training. It's a very good introduction into using City Engine in the field of visual effects. So the basic story behind the training is going from some simple concept art to a procedural representation in City Engine, then going from City Engine to a final render quality. And the story then continues to basically the story where you say, let's say the art director wants to have additional shots which look a little bit similar, but we have to regenerate a complete new set using the same or similar rules. So we are going in and actually create a second set or we take the full time to create that additional set, which takes about 45 minutes or so. And then obviously we also go in and render the whole picture again using the same proposed pipeline in Maxwell Render and Maya. A very quick rundown on the pipeline. It's actually quite similar to what I've been using in the Favela project, but it's simplified. It's a lot simplified. So going from City Engine to Maya using an OBJ file series, but then using a Maxwell Render material, which is basically a referenced Maya scene. And then on import of the OBJ file series, we are replacing all of the default materials with the final shaders that are stored in the material library. And all of that is done using a meld script. The same thing with, or a similar thing as explained before, going from the City Engine, extracting the vegetation instances position, so basically the transformation matrix, dynamically generating meld code, which can then be used in Maya to place all of the instances of the vegetation types. So we can go from a City Engine scene to Maya and start a Maxwell render in the final quality depending on the scene size in a couple of minutes. So yeah, let's quickly have a look at the services which we are offering here at Garstel Design. So we have the classical line of services, which is basically planning services, going from architecture to planning to heritage, stuff like, for example, heritage reports or listed building reports, or also mentioned before, Middle Eastern city planning, and so on and so on. Now, the new line of 3D services is basically, in short, it's basically City Engine consulting. This consists of 3D urban modeling, so creating city models on request, basically, processing 2D or 3D services in the field of geographic information system. We also have a line or multiple different lines or types of City Engine training which we offer. We also offer CGA and Python scripting services for people that say, it's too complicated to learn. We don't want to deal with this. So we can help clients, or we can help clients out with that. And then last but not least, basically high-end visualization services where we take on not only the visualization field as for example in architectural visualization or visualizing GIS data, but this is also extending more to the field of visual effects. And there we are getting more and more traction from, for example, people that are directors or that are working in the visual effects field and would like to have a little bit more or some support in, for example, City Engine evaluation or collaborating on actual feature films. So yeah, this is basically my part of the presentation. So I would say I give the mic back to Dominic.
Thank you very much, Matthias. Let me quickly bring the screen back. Here we go. Okay. One more time, thank you so much for all the valuable information and inputs, Matthias. And before we dive into the question, I want to show you the City Engine web viewer, aka Cities in the Cloud, that lately got a lot of traction within our customer base and that Matthias mentioned quickly. So what is the City Engine web viewer? The City Engine web viewer is basically, or allows you to interact with 3D urban environments using a web browser, and this without installing a software or a plugin. So let's assume you're working on a city for a feature film or for a project, and you need to gather some feedback from your director, customer, or supervisor for some assets or even the whole city you just created. In this situation, you have several possibilities, and some are more tedious, and we would like to show you a very exciting and new one. First, you export your city or asset directly from City Engine to the web. After that, you define exactly with whom you want to share it, and whether that's just one person, a group, or the public. And finally, you send your collaborators just a link that they can access from a desktop or even a mobile device without installing a software or a plugin. And since a picture is worth 1,000 words, let me just quickly show you the core functionalities. So that's the City Engine web viewer with a very nice and futuristic city called Spiral City. I think you worked also on that, Matthias, right?
I was involved with a little bit on it, yeah.
Okay. So you see basically on the bottom left, you see the navigation tools. If you can't use your mouse or if you use it with a mobile device, then you can set bookmarks and even have the possibility to set up a guided tour with autoplay, through the Booksmarts. On the top, basically here, you can work with different layers, as you know it from your favorite 3D modeling tools, and in the settings you can adjust in real time sunlight for different times of the day or month or year. And furthermore, you have the ability to leave geo-specific comments in this web scene. So you go to a place or to a building or to a windows, and you can place geo-specific location. So this is the City Engine web viewer that got currently a lot of traction within our customer base. And for all of you out there who are Star Wars fans, our demo team did a very special City Engine web scene. So have you ever wanted to tour the Star Wars galaxy, or have you ever wondered exactly where Tatooine was when Luke said, well, if there's a bright center to the universe, you're on the planet that's the farthest from? If so, this is the City Engine web scene for you. With this web scene, you can tour the Star Wars galaxy in a three-dimensional space in your web browser without downloading a software or a plugin. The tour showcases the planets and moons of note that they were mentioned or seen in the movie. And one more time, you can find the link to this interactive Star Wars Galaxy Tour and all other content from today's webinar in our box folder at bit.ly/VES webinar_1508. And we will repeat that URL one more time at the end of the webinar. So if you are interested to continue the conversation about how you can benefit from City Engine for your own project, we have 3 options for you. First of all, we invite you to download our free 30-day City Engine trial. Second, if you attend SIGGRAPH next week in Los Angeles, we invite you for a personal meeting with City Engine Mastermind, Pascal Mueller, and myself, as already mentioned. And last but certainly not least, Matthias will offer for the first 10 people from this generous offer. Be very fast and write Matthias an email at matthias.bueller@garsdaledesign.co.uk. And one more time, we have to limit this offer to the first 10 people that reach out to Matthias. So Matt, thank you very much for that offer. Okay, and let us now start with the Q&A. So if you have a question, type in your question in the question window, and we are good to go. And since we also want to respect your time, I think we have time for about 3 questions that we can answer during the webinar. But no matter what, we will answer your questions directly via email or the phone. So we have here the first question, which will be, what about the City Engine SDK? Matthias, would you like to answer that one?
Yes, I can do that, certainly. So the City Engine SDK basically is a programming library, or a programming or a way that was used to wrap the City Engine model generation or the geometry processing unit in a library. So basically, it's like a toolbox that can be used to generate any building, for example, based on an input geometry and a rule, as we have seen beforehand at the beginning of my introduction. Now, this library is a C++ library, and it as long as you have, for example, an interface in your own application that is C++ ready, or that can be used, or where you can do or create C++ code, then you are basically ready to go and to start developing your own City Engine plugin for your own software. Now, the source code or the City Engine SDK is hosted on GitHub. So just search on Google for City Engine SDK and GitHub, and you will find some of the documentation there.
Thank you very much. We have another one. I think that's also for you, Matthias. I saw that you export to Maya and rendered it in Maxwell. Are you support any others?
Yes. So the question is, what is the 3D application where you export to? So I've mentioned going from City Engine. Once you are done with modeling the city, you can export the geometries to any of the 3D file formats, which are the standards, like, for example, OBJ or FBX or RenderMan or View, and so on and so on. So depending on in which package you want to render, you obviously choose the best fitting file format, and then once you are in a package like, I don't know, Max or Maya, you just have to make sure that your materials and geometries and instances and so on are simply ready to be rendered in your favorite renderer of choice. So the pipeline is really up to you. City Engine offers quite generic file formats, and using the City Engine SDK, you can also, for example, implement your own exporter where you encode your own specific proprietary file formats. So City Engine really offers a very, very powerful platform on how you want to deal with generating cities, bringing them to other applications, and rendering them.
And here is just an additional question from the same person. He said, like, I mean the render like V-Ray. So V-Ray isn't a challenge as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. V-Ray is supported in a multitude of different 3D applications, like, for example, Maya or Max, and it's getting more implemented in more other renders. Some even, for example, compositing package like Nuke. So bringing that stuff over should be straightforward. But again, it's important that you nail down your specific pipeline that you are interested in, and you deal with, especially with the materials. So you define a material naming convention, and then once you have that set up, you're basically unstoppable.
Yeah, we have a very active audience, Matthias, but I think it's our last question. So it basically same direction. Hi, what would be the workflow to get a city into 3ds Max 2015 using V-Ray, all models, shaders, etc. at the correct scale?
The easiest way to do that would be just simply to export the geometries to an FBX file, and because an FBX file supports quite advanced materials or advanced shading networks, basically, and also it retains instancing information, and yeah, then you're ready to go and render in V-Ray once you have the stuff in Max.
Okay. Thank you very much. I want to respect everybody's time, so I think that's all for now. If we could not answer your question during the webinar, we will come back to you directly via email or phone. And now let me conclude the webinar with the following next steps. Number one is feel free to download the free 30-day trial from City Engine, or meet us at SIGGRAPH 2015 next week for a personal meeting with City Engine Mastermind Pascal Mueller and myself. Then also, if you are interested to have one of these 10 exclusive 15 minutes free consulting slots with Matthias, then please act fast. We know those are going fast. So please write him an email at matthias.buehler@garstilldesign.co.uk. And I'm not sure, I didn't want to confuse you about the link. So the bit link where you can find all the information is bit.ly/VES webinar_1508. I just got a notice that I confused I think you guys before, so please use that link and you are good to go. Otherwise, just write us an email and we will send you the materials. Okay, finally, I would like to thank the Visual Effects Society and especially Nancy for setting this webinar up. And we are happy and proud to be an official supporter and partner of the Visual Effects Society. So we walk the talk and support the Visual Effects Society whenever we can, and we're looking forward and being happy to being a partner of it. So that's all from us. Have a great Friday and weekend, and hopefully we see each other at SIGGRAPH or on our next webinar with the Visual Effects Society.